All right. So now we've set up our animation. We've made our settings with the linear and stepped tangents. And now it's time for us to start animation, right? So our objective now is to have every single pose keyed out about every 10 frames. Once again, these are gonna simplify the animation process where you're really just focused in on how the character is posed and looks for those moments. So here's what I want you to do. I breezed by it pretty quickly, but I'm going to reiterate what I did on pose 1. I'm going to do the same thing for pose 10, just to kind of repeat myself. Then we'll talk about moving your character and posing, and then we're going to get to posing. So if I had 20 poses, I'm going to have 200 frames, right? And so forth. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my character here, and I'm going to select him one more time by right-clicking on it and choosing Select Hierarchy. Now you can see the line here on the dope sheet. This is pose number 1, but I'm going to go to frame number 10. Excuse me. That's the T-pose that we did previously there. But since it's not really going to matter, I'm going to do it one more time on frame number 10. Just to kind of reiterate it. So how did I select that hierarchy? I right-clicked, selected hierarchy. That selects everything. Doing a box select around everything won't do it. You have to do the select hierarchy. And once we do this once, with our auto key on the lower right-hand corner here, our auto key filled in, we shouldn't have to press S anymore. But it's going to memorize every single track that we do. So anyway, I've selected it all. Right-click, select hierarchy. Repetition works, people, right? Then I'm going to press S, and every little joint here is now keyed. That's what this sheet represents. All right. So I'm already on frame 10. So I've already keyed it, but now when I change it, it'll remember it. So let's talk a little bit about moving your character around as we pose it. So I never want you to use the ground control to change the pose of your character. If you want to make him go up in the air, you have to select the waist and the 2 feet. And you can move that, will float him up in the air. Okay? If you want him to turn around, you're going to have to, how does a normal person turn around, right? So you're going to have to step up a foot, rotate it, right? That's one pose. The next pose, take this foot, put it back down, right? Take this foot, put it back up on the next pose, right? And literally turn them around step by step. There's no magic spinning here, right? So you got to be conscious. If you want them to move, you're going to have to move them with feet and hips. Do not use your ground control. The ground control is for adjustments later. All right. If you want him to flip, do not use the ground control. If you want him to flip, once again, I'm going to pull him up and maybe rotate him a bit, right? And that's going to be one pose, and then I'll move the feet as well. Don't neglect the feet. I can do both at the same time, right? I'll rotate them. And then that's one pose. And then my next pose would be, even more, rotate it over, and then maybe move the feet up. Now I'm doing this very quickly. I'd put a lot more detail into it and mess with the knees. And then the next pose. So don't use this guy to flip him. Don't use him to spin him. Don't use him to move him. All right. But that's not my first pose. My first pose, according to my drawing, and so you should go according to your drawing, is my first pose is Link up in the air, falling down. So I know it doesn't, this all looks like the ground, but this is actually up in the air. The other thing you want to do is, we haven't really modeled too much, so use the grid as your ground. All right. So less talking, more animating. Let's get that guy up. like so, and I'm going to pull him just a bit out there. Now, this is why you want to have a perspective view that you can move around here in your locked camera here so you can see the final output. So I'm going to kind of pull him just off screen, but here I can kind of pose him the way I want. So according to my drawing here, he's up in the hands are up in the air, legs up, foot and toes are pointed down, one leg up, one leg down, excuse me, and that's about all I got. I'm just going to make it nice and dramatic. So I'll just take this pose, take this leg and kind of pull it up, rotate it down, something like that, and then take this knee, rotate. Ooh. Now, notice I kind of hyperextend his knee, so I'm going to have to pull it up a little bit. There you go. And I might want to pull, I'm going to rock his hips back just a little bit. There we go. And maybe pull this foot forward a little bit. Make it look like he's really reaching. And once again, it's really going to be seen as he's transitioning through that fall. And if I'm having trouble with his knees, I might need to move his knee locators. These come in handy, so don't neglect them. Ooh. There. All right. So now I've rocked his hip backs. I'm actually going to tuck in his gut a little bit. I'll lean him forward, and he's probably going to be looking down. Something like that. And then I have a little joint in his head. I'm going to let his cap kind of flow upward. And now this is his clavicle. I'm going to be very careful not to over-rotate it too much. Like that. And then his shoulder I can twist a lot more. And then grab his elbow. Did I lock his elbow? And notice I've locked his elbow here. But his shoulder I'll get up a little bit more. Same thing with this guy. Really kind of create this dramatic pose. Now, you may notice one thing I'm not doing is I'm not giving him any facial expressions. And the first pose is always the longest. Because you're just kind of getting everything set. But I'm going to leave his facial expressions blank until the end. We'll do the facial animation at the end. So just go with the body. Rotate this around a little bit. And this is pose 1. And then don't neglect the hands too. It's always nice to kind of have the hands up and out. Let me move this. There we go. Space his hands out. It look like he's really grabbing for the air. And thumbs look good. Just gonna kind of bend his fingers just so they're not so straight. Something like that. Maybe I give him too much of a Spock. Tap it back in. That's good enough. Just a little more bend. I'm sure you don't want me to watch me bend the hand over and over again. Let's tuck those in a little bit more. There we go. All right. I'm just kind of approximating on this window where it is. You can barely see him here, and that's what I want because he's going to be falling off screen onto the camera. If I want to raise him higher so he's a little further up off screen, I just grab 2 feet in the waist, and I'm going to push him off frame right there. So he is off frame on the first frame. So he's going to be falling into frame. But this pose looks like, I'm still not happy with that, but this pose looks relatively similar. Tuck me in a little bit. There we go. Tuck down his head. Tuck down his head. There you go. So this pose looks similar to that. I went a little bit off the drawing, but it's looking pretty good. Doesn't look like he's falling. Woo! All right, and that's pose 1. Notice I didn't press S anywhere because in the lower right-hand corner, I'm auto-keying. All right, so what's next? Pose 2. So if I go to pose 2, it's going to be on frame number 20. So now he's falling. I'm going to bring him back down. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to bring him all the way down. And I'm going to bring him up forward towards the origin. And now I can always just resize this, move this around. Just make sure he's all set. And I'm going to make his foot kind of touch down right there. That sounds great. Somewhere right around there. I'm actually going to just reset his foot back to 0. That way I know that's back to its original position. And then everything else I can kind of get to fall forward. So I'll take this foot. He's going to land on his right foot. I'll take his left foot, and it's going to come forward and down, but I'm going to get the hips in position first. I'm going to have to plop this down like that. Get his knee angled. This foot's going to come forward. angle it where I want it to be. And don't be afraid to type into your channel box. And maybe move the knee forward and ahead. Something like that. Yeah, that's a broken ankle. So on a fancier rig, you'll have a foot roll, but we didn't build that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rotate it and pull it up. And that will kind of help make it look like he's landed in the right spot. Something like that. I'm using the ground. It's a way to kind of show where it's hit. And we're all good. Let's see. Good? Yes. Good? Good. And this guy is just a little off ground. So, that's where his feet are for pose 1. Pull this out a little bit more. There we go. Rotate it back a little. And notice I'm getting really nitpicky here on the foot, but look how far away the foot is on my locked camera. It looks great over here. Here, not so much. So you can be nitpicky, but just always remember, this is what I'm actually going to see in the final cut. Now, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to rotate the hips a little more. I'm going to rotate them forward. I'm not going to try and break it so you can see up the skirt. Then I'll pull them down. Somewhere right around there. And so pull them back, pull them down. And then I'm going to bend his waist forward until it looks like the belt's digging in a little bit. That's going to be fine because his chest and his body are going to kind of collapse over everything. So something like that. Those clavicles I'm going to bring back down. Oop, I'm going to bring them too far down. There you go. And now his shoulder, I'm going to rotate down as well. The elbows, I'm going to kind of bend inward. And notice his hand is going through his skirt, so we've got to fix that. There we go. And I'll kind of really overextend his hands just a bit. Just enough to kind of create, maybe pull out his waist. So I'm not neglecting these fingers here. I am touching a lot. And don't forget the neck. And then I'm also going to whip down the hat. So everything is down. Now later I'm going to offset this and do a lot more with the hat and have a lot of fun with it. For right now, I'm just going to kind of pose it so it's down with everything else. And notice I completely neglected the eye control. Sure, I'll move that down as well so he's looking down at the ground. All right. Okay. I think I am near done. The clavicle's got to come down. Twist that arm in. That. And like that. All right. Good for now. So, one thing you might notice is I was on 21 and not 20. That's okay. I can adjust those later on the dope sheet. But now if you look at frame 10, let's zoom out here, right? He's up here. And then frame 20, he's down crouched as he landed. Boom. And then I'm going to lean him forward just a little bit more. And then I'm just going to keep moving on for every single pose until he's all mapped out with every single drawing I've done. You should have about 12. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then he's going to slice, then he's going to step nod, and he's got a few more things to do. So what will actually wind up happening is you'll get your final steps will look something like this. So this one's obviously not done, but each pose is mapped out and each pose is framed 10 apart. So I have pose 1, he's up in the air. Pose 2, he's crash landed. 3, he looks up. 4, he steps out, grabs a sword, and each one of these is a different step. Stab, that's this one you just saw. That's right here. So I actually added some more poses in between off of my drawing, and then he's going to go through and slice. So have at it. Take every pose and mark it on these things. And if you do mess up and you get several off of the 20, I'll show you how to correct that later. So pose away and get going.